go over the session again, and yeah, we'll start it again with the microphone not on mute. So yeah, give me a second, we'll start again. Alright, cool. We're back again. Again, I just want to apologize for the previous broadcast where my microphone was on mute. Hopefully that's not the case now. I've just checked the microphone again, so it seems to be alright now. Tech Tips, thanks for pointing that out. Hope you can hear me this time. I hope everybody else can hear me. What we'll do again, actually, before we actually start the session again, we'll just give it a few minutes, see if anybody else wants to join. I'm just going to share it on my Twitter feed again, and then we'll jump straight into it. Feel free to share it with your friends, those that are interested, on Twitter or over social media, Facebook, wherever or whatever you use. Let me just share this on my Twitter. If you guys have any questions, I'll try stop as we're going through it and answer any questions that you might have. Alright, cool. Cortez, if you're still on, check inbox. Okay, I'll do that after this session. Alright, cool. So without further ado, let's get started. So you can all hear me this time. That's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through this quick PowerPoint presentation just so I can kind of explain what we're going to do today. Right, give me a second. Alright, cool. So today's session is how to upgrade the iOS on a Cisco switch. The switch I'm using today is a physical switch. 3750X is the switch, and it's the exact one that you can see on your screen. It is a 48 port switch that I'm using, and I've added an extra network module as well on the where you can see the blank slot on the right hand side. So this is the switch that we're using today in my home lab. And what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade the current iOS to a newer iOS. The switch is running version 12 dot something. We can check that, and we're going to upgrade it to the latest version, which is 15.x something. Okay, there are a few prerequisites. We need a TFTP server, and we also need obviously the Cisco iOS image, the new image. The TFTP server that I'm using is a SolarWinds TFTP server that can run natively on my Windows machine and make use of my my machine's IP address instead of having to set one up separately, etc. For those that are intending on doing this on home lab equipment or anything like that, you need to make sure that you have a valid Cisco account where you can download the software images. So do bear that in mind. You can't just kind of go to software.cisco.com and create an account and any account and just download software. It don't work like that. So do bear that in mind. Alright, cool. So those are the two prerequisites. And these are the configuration steps that we're going to run through today. So starting from the top, we need to verify the current iOS version, and I've also added the commands here in terms of what we're going to do today. I thought it'd be useful to actually include these commands in the slides so that when I upload them to my blog, synac.co.uk, you'll be able to make use or use this as a reference guide for future, in case you do this in future. So we need to show a version to verify what version the switch is actually using before we actually go ahead and download any software from Cisco.com, which is common sense. Then we're going to download the Cisco image from software.cisco.com. I've already downloaded the image that we're going to be using, so I won't be doing that, but there is the link, www.software.cisco.com. Then we're going to delete the current iOS from Flash. I'm going to show you these commands, however I've done this in a previous video, so we won't actually be doing, in fact we might be able to do that, we'll double check that, but yeah, because I did this video before on mute, Tech Tips pointed out, thank you. We've already run through this step, so I'll do my best to kind of show you guys this again. The reason you want to delete the current iOS from Flash is because one, it takes up memory, and two, you're not going to need it once you put on the new image. Okay. And then we're going to copy the new iOS to the switch using the TFTP server. And then we're going to verify the new iOS image hasn't been modified in transit. And this is very important, especially in production environments, that you check that the image that's been uploaded to your switch hasn't been modified during its upload. And we'll take a look at that and see why that's important. Then we're going to change the boot path to boot to the new image that we've uploaded. And last but not least, we're going to save, reload, and verify that the new image is running. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump onto our command line. And you guys can see that, which is good. So we'll do first, as per our configuration steps, we need to verify the current iOS version. So there's a few commands we can use. So we can use show version. And I'll just go ahead and output all this and we'll scroll back up. And on this, we can see the switch is a 3750 and we're using a universal K9 image. Now the K9 on any image means, or on Cisco images, means that we're using security features on for this particular image. We can see that we're using version 12.2, which is quite old. We need to update that, which is what we're going to do today. And if we scroll down a bit, we can see again the version, the image. We can see the actual system image file and where it's stored. So it's stored in Flash, and we can see the image file name all here. And then scroll down further, we can see that it's a 3750X switch, 48 ports is what the 48 stands for. And right at the bottom here, again, we can see it says 54 ports there is because I've installed a network module to add additional ports, but you can see it's a 48 port 3750 Catalyst X, and we can see our software image here. So there's quite a lot of information that you can see just from doing a show version. Now there's also a command which is show switch. So what does show switch do? Well, this may be important if you actually find yourself doing this in production environments, or if you are running a switch stack. So for those that are not familiar with the switch stack terms, basically you can stack switches together, whereby one takes on a master role and the rest take on slaves. Now, with this command, show switch, you'll be able to see all the other switches underneath here and the roles that they play in, MAC addresses, etc. I mean, obviously I've not got this stacked, so you can only see our switch and its current state role is master, MAC address, etc. I do have a switch stacking cable, and I do have some more physical switches you know, some of these switches, more of these switches, should I say. So who knows, I might do a video in the future on switch stacking. Might be useful for some of you guys. So there's another command which is flash, which is directory flash, and this is where we can see our image, our current image. So as I mentioned earlier, because I did this video earlier but it was on mute, so I've had to do it again, I already deleted the where's the image? So I already deleted this image, the 12.2 image, which was in here. So I've deleted that already, and I uploaded the new one, which is a 15.2. So we can go through that again, but this command basically shows you the image, and because we've got two flashes, we could do the flash 1 as well, and again we can see the image here. Okay, so they're the few commands we can use. So what we'd do then is we would move on to download the Cisco iOS image from software.cisco.com. As I said, I've already downloaded the image, so I'm not going to go through that step because I've already done that. So we'll move on to deleting the current iOS from Flash. So I've already deleted the 12.2 image from Flash, but because we've got the new image here, what I can do is I can delete this Flash and show you the commands to do that, which are these ones that we're going to do here. So we'll flip back to the command line, and we'll do delete, and I'll just do question mark to show you what the /f and /r are. So we can see that /f is going to force the delete, and we can see that it's also recursive as well. So we'll do /f space /r, and we'll start with the flash and then the image name. So ideally our image name would be the old 12.2 image name, not the new one, but in this case it's going to be this image name. So I'll go ahead and copy that there, and we're going to delete that. Now for up arrow and do the flash again, we can see now that this image has been deleted. Okay, and if we look at flash 1, it's also gone as well in this case. So once we've done that, we need to copy the new iOS image to the switch using the TFTP server. So once you've downloaded the image and you've got your TFTP server set up, you need to make sure that obviously your new image is in the TFTP server directory, ready to push that. Now, to do this, the way I'm connected with my switch, my physical switch, is that I'm connected via console now. So we're on the console right now, and I also have an Ethernet cable going into my network in one of the ports on this switch. Now we're going to need this Ethernet cable to establish IP connectivity so that we can actually get this new image from our TFTP server. So what we need to do that, before we actually copy the TFTP, the image from the TFTP server, is we need to configure the interface. So what I'm going to do first is I'll just see if there's any questions. Give me a second. There we go. I'll just see if there's any questions while I remove the configs that I did, and then we can go through them again. Alright, cool. Yeah. Alright, cool. Yeah, so no, what we're doing tactics are just moving the old configuration so that we can run through the newer configuration. Yeah, so that we could run through the configuration again, sorry. So we'll do this now. So in order to establish connectivity with the TFTP server, what we'll do is we'll configure the switch. So we're going to global configuration, and because it's a switch we need to enable IP routing. So if I just do IP and question mark, and we'll go down to routing, we need to enable this IP routing. So we'll do that, and then what we'll do is we'll enter do show IP interface brief, and the switch port that we're using is gigabit 101. So we'll jump into that now. Gigabit 101, and we'll do, because it's going to be a switch port, we need to do no switch port. Okay, then we'll do no shutdown, and we'll do, just for simplicity, I'm going to do IP address DHCP. We should see this switch port get an IP address on the network. Alright, there you go. So we can see now that we've got an IP address on the network. So if I do show IP interface brief again, we can see there we go, we've got an IP address, protocol and status is up, the method that we've used is DHCP, and our IP address is 192.168.0.27. Alright, cool. So we'll do ping, we'll try and just ping Google DNS server, and there we go. So we've got connectivity now, we know it's working, that's good. Exit out of that interface. Now there's a few more prerequisites that you might need to take into account here depending on your environment, and that is you need to make sure that your host firewall permits this connectivity between your switch and the TFTP server that you've got running, because this could be a problem, and it could, you know, obviously stop your image transferring. And just to show you that, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to block the connectivity on my firewall, on my host firewall, and then we're going to try and copy the new image using copy TFTP flash, and we'll see that we'll observe the output on the TFTP server, we'll observe it on here, and we'll see that it fails. Okay, so what we'll do, switch back to the CLI for a minute and put that up there. Alright, cool. So what we'll do is we'll do copy, oops, exit out global config, we'll do copy TFTP, just go down from there, copy TFTP flash, and then our server is located at that IP address, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK. This is our source file image name, and we're going to copy it to the same, basically we're going to keep the same name. And now we're going to see that the switch is going to try and access the TFTP server, and it won't show you anything on here because it's just not going to allow this connectivity. So we switch back to this, and we should see then that the switch, we get a timeout message that is timed out. So just while we're waiting for that, let me just show you. So this is the image that we're going to be using, the 15.2.4, downloaded from Cisco's website. And there's a few more pieces of important information on here, and we're going to take a look at this after, and you'll see why. So we flip back to CLI, and now we can see that this is timed out. We've got an error opening the TFTP connection and the image, and we can see that it's timed out. The reason being is because the host firewall is not permitting this in my environment. So I'm going to go ahead and make the changes. Changes made, and now we're going to try again. All same, and we're going to see now that if we flick back to TFTP, you can see that we've got a few interrupts, but it should start. So started file name, and if we flick back to CLI, we can see now that it's loading our new image from our TFTP server on the interface that we've configured for IP connectivity. Now this don't take too long, and we should be able to, once complete, we should be able to observe the changes in the logs from the TFTP server. So while that's uploading, feel free to ask me any questions if you've got any, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So this is something you'll probably find yourself doing in, you know, if you're buying home lab equipment, you'll probably, and you obviously have access to download Cisco software, you might find yourself doing this, you know, updating your iOS software. Or if you're in a live environment and your manager says, you know, okay, we need to update these switches, then you might find yourself doing them there. Or if you work for a managed service provider and you look after customers with Cisco switches, Cisco routers, etc., you might find yourself also updating their software. Occasionally it's done when you either want to make use of new features that an older image doesn't support, or if you have vulnerabilities in the current iOS software that you're using. So it is useful to know. It's not something, at least, that I find myself doing, on a daily basis. In fact, not really at all, unless I'm doing it in my lab environment. But that's because of, mainly because of the company I work for, and my job description is somewhat different to, managing customer devices in that manner. So not too long now, and this should be uploaded, and then what we'll do is once it's uploaded it, we'll verify the iOS image and being modified in transit. So this is basically the image being uploaded to our switch, and that's classed as in transit. Now in a production environment, we want to make sure that we might not even know where this TFTP server is. It might be in a different department or somewhere else. We don't know who's got access to it, etc. So we want to be able to verify that this image is the image that we downloaded from Cisco's website. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to enter verify, and we're going to verify the MD5 hash. Okay. Flash, and the image name, which is this one. I'll just copy that. Okay, and we'll just run that. Let's see what happens. And just while that's doing that, we'll flip back to TFTP server logs, and we can see that at the top, zoom that out a bit, we can see that it's completed. We can see that there we have a completed, which obviously we've seen on the command line anyway, but you can also obviously verify that on this particular TFTP server, and I suspect you can on other TFTP servers as well. So flicking back to the CLI, we can see our MD5 ash here, and as I said earlier, for those that have been watching from the start, there's some very important information on the Cisco website when you download these images. When you hover over the file that you're going to download, you can see the MD5 checksum. Okay, so when you use this verify/MD5 command, we're going to get this we should get the same MD5 checksum. So we can verify this by running that command and being on the Cisco website, and you know, basically putting the two commands together, the two MD5 checksums together, which should be the same. So we can see on the end there we've got 46CA7. So we go back on here, we have 46CA7, and basically the whole point of this is just to make sure that the image isn't a corrupt image that's been modified before you've been able to upload it to the switch. So that's very useful from a security perspective, and just to make sure that you have uploaded the correct image. So once we've done that, let's just flip back to our presentation, and we've verified now the MD5. So now we're going to change the boot path to the new image. So let's do this now. So we'll do show boot just to see the boot path, and we can see that the boot path list is still referencing the old image here. So this needs to change, and what we're going to do now is we're going to do boot system, if it works. Wait a minute, let me just verify that. Command. Yep, so we need to be in global. So conft, and we'll do boot system switch. And if we do question mark, we can see all means set system image for all switches in the stack. So we've only got this one in our stack anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So our image is, before we do that, in fact I'll just show you where the image is. So let's do data flash. So we can see our new image is in flash, and that's the image name. So again, if we do boot system, and we're going to do all flash and our image name, just copy that there, and that doesn't want, oh, I've got the space there, I think that's the problem. There we go. And so if I exit out that, show boot, so now we can see that the image boot path list is changed to our new image and not the old image, because obviously we've deleted that as well. So what we're going to do now, if we take a look at our presentation, now we're doing that, we need to save the configuration, reload, and then we can verify with the show version to make sure that we are on the new version. Because right now, if we do a show version again, we can see that we're still on the old version. So we'll do a write mem, which is copy run start, or write memory, and then we'll do a reload of the switch, confirm with the reload, and then we'll let this switch reload, and as I say, we'll then verify again by issuing the show version command. We'll let that reload. I'll just see if there's any questions. Alright, cool. So, tech tips. Do we need a license for new images for a switch, or the license is just for routers? So, I think, I mean, don't get confused with licenses. The iOS image is, in fact, I think it's better if I show you when this switch is reloaded. So we'll wait till this switch reloaded, and we'll see. So let's see, this should be still reloading. Yeah, so it's still reloading. Shouldn't take too long. So I just want to say thank you for those that have tuned in so far. And as you can see on your screen now, it's loading the new image that we uploaded, which is a 15.2 image. So it's done away with the old 12.2 image, and we can see the new image. It shouldn't take too long to do this. And we'll look at the licensing. But just to kind of, long story short, tech tips is that the license you have on your devices shouldn't affect the updates that you do with iOS images. So I hope that answers your question. So now it's uncompressed and installed the image. Now it is going to load the image, as you'll see on your screen now. And shouldn't be too long. I can hear my switch fans going now. I don't know if you can hear that. That's another thing to kind of bear in mind if you guys are getting home lab equipment. You know, sometimes it can be quite noisy, so do bear that in mind. So I'm not sure if you can hear this switch now, but it is quite loud now that the fans are spinning. But again, you know, having home lab equipment is useful. It's expensive. It's expensive to purchase the equipment. It's expensive to run the equipment. But, you know, if you make real good use of it, I'm sure for those that are studying certifications, etc., especially with Cisco, you'll find that, you know, it's 10 times better than just working with virtual equipment. And the reason I say that is because you get to, one, see the equipment, and two, you get to, you know, either make the relevant cables, so Ethernet cables. You get to actually take into consideration the fact that you need to plug cables in and you know, configure certain ports. You need to take into consideration things like, you know, as we did today, host firewalls, you know, stuff like that. So it's very useful. And you can also do things like this, so upgrading iOS images, you know, like my video I did a few days ago where I was recovering from a password lockout. You know, so things like that, you know, give you more hands-on experience when you have the ability to work with real physical equipment. I mean, if purchasing hardware is a problem for some guys, and I know it was for me at the start of my career, at the start of my journey when I started, you know, it was a problem purchasing equipment, and it was a problem actually before I actually joined Cisco. Obviously I've got more access to equipment now that I work for Cisco, but you start off by buying the necessities, so either one switch, one router, or you know, a little ASA 5505 firewall, which, you know, you can get for about £100 now. Start off by buying them, and you slowly build up. And for the things that you can't buy physical, sometimes you can also lab them. So you can, there's a way, especially in GNS3, there's a way whereby you can link your physical equipment to your virtual environment within GNS3. Now, I've done a video on this a few years ago. It's on my YouTube channel. I'll try search for it and put in a link of this description on this video. But there's a way whereby you can link physical equipment to a virtual environment. So what you could do there is you could have, let's say, a main office with your physical equipment, and then you could have a virtual second branch with your virtual equipment, or vice versa. And that kind of gives you the option then to have more equipment and play around there with virtual and physical equipment. So bear that in mind, you know, that is an option as well, and it does help. So while this is still doing this and my fans are spinning like crazy, I'll just switch it up to the questions, see if you guys have got any. I can see Jarrett's tuned in. Welcome, thanks for joining again. Hardware labbing is way better than virtual. Yeah, I mean, as I was just saying, you know, when you have the ability to work with physical equipment, you get more hands-on experience, you know, so you are able to, as I say, things just like, you know, plugging in cables is very important. You know, things like, you know, messing with console cables and being able to console to a device using, you know, the serial port. You know, things like that are just so important, and for those that don't get that experience firsthand and they just work with virtual equipment or just read the books, when you actually start your first job and your manager comes up to you and says, okay, today I want you to console to these three devices, and I want you to pull the configurations from them, or do what we're doing today, which is upgrading the iOS images. You've read about it, and hopefully you do know or have an idea of how to do it. But it's, especially in a new job, it can be sometimes daunting because you've never done it before. So when you put on the spot and you've never done it before, it can be quite daunting and quite difficult. Whereas if you've got this equipment in your own environment, whether that be your home lab or college or university, you're still in your comfort zone, so you can afford to make mistakes. You can afford to look stupid and get things right. So that is one thing to bear in mind. So I do definitely, like Jareth said, hardware labbing is so beneficial. So definitely look at getting some equipment. Rise and Grind, hey man, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to you and Dwan. Yeah man. I mean, a lot of you guys come through to me from the interview that I did with Dwan. Shout out. And some of the messages that I've been getting from you guys, inspiring, saying that it's very motivational, and that's what we do. We're out here trying to share our knowledge and trying to it's a community effort, so we're giving back, but at the same time, you're giving to us, because when you're reaching out to us and giving us those messages, telling us that it's so motivational, and that you've been able to pass certifications or get your first job, or even just start the journey, that's enough for us to say, all right, cool, so we're out there giving back, and people are appreciating it, and people are actually doing something with the information that we're giving them. So they're gonna, we're gonna carry on doing what we're doing. So yeah, shout out to you guys, and thanks for tuning in, and I hope this information and these videos that I'm doing is you're finding it useful and beneficial. Especially today. I know you guys over in America, you got the Super Bowl today. I mean, I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl tonight. On my time, I think it's on at about 11:40 at night, close to midnight. But I'll be up there watching that with you guys. So yeah, today's a big day, but I thought, I can still squeeze in a lab or two today and try connect with you guys today. So shout out for tuning in. And thanks for those that have shared it on, the social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you guys are using. Yeah, so, I mean, by all means, yeah, reference my channel. I've got a few videos in regards to CCNA security. I mean, you've probably no doubt listened to my interview with Dwan, and I started out networking, and then I made the switch to be more security focused. And the reason why I did that is because I quite liked what security were doing. I quite liked messing with security features, locking down devices, controlling the access, whatever. So I made that switch, and my first step was by doing the CCNA security. And yeah, I mean, the CCNA security exam, it's not an easy exam. You do need to know your stuff, but it's very rewarding once you've got that certification. So yeah, by all means, use the knowledge that I've been sharing on my YouTube channel. I've also obviously got my blog, www.synac.co.uk, where I post a lot of articles in regards to security. So check that out. I mean, my journey now, obviously working for Cisco as a security consultant. I am actually at the minute focusing on my CCNA. I'm focusing on my CCIE security. So I did my CCIE security. I did my CCIE security written exam about 3 weeks ago, and I missed out by 70 points. I'm not going to say I failed, because to me it's not a failure. To me it's just like, I want my time, so I'm going to go back and get it again. But yeah, I missed out by 70 points. I nearly passed it. So I've rebooked my CCIE security written exam, and I'll be going for that again within the next few months as well. So a lot of material is going to be on my blog, so you'll be able to find that on there. I know you find it useful. As a network engineer, do you have to do Microsoft stuff? So yeah, I mean, it's not just Microsoft stuff that we do in terms of other vendors. We need to be, everything today is multi-vendor environment. You're never gonna get, I'll be surprised if you work with a customer that has just one piece of, just one vendor. I find that you need to know not the ins and outs necessarily of other vendors, but you need to understand what their technology does. So I find myself working with things like load balancers, not ideally configuring them, because obviously working for Cisco, we obviously only touch Cisco stuff primarily, but you need to understand what that's doing in the network, and it might influence how your device is configured. So we find yourself not just working with Microsoft. I mean, you work with Microsoft at least as a vendor quite a lot when you're working with Cisco ICE, the Identity Services Engine. But in terms of general, you just need to be able to understand and know about other vendors. I like security. I'm pursuing CCNA security after CCNA run switching. Yeah, rise and grind. That's a good idea. That's exactly the same thing that I did. So, when I start my journey, I was new to networking, etc. It were all new to me, and I needed to have the foundational knowledge of networking. And once I did, that's when I made my step to jump to security. Jarrett's put Linux. Yeah, Linux is very important. I mean, quite a few Cisco products now backend run Linux, so that's an important thing to remember. Also, in the world of automation and programming and DevOps, etc., Linux is again key player in that space. And I mean, at the minute I find myself using or learning quite a lot of Ansible, and I'm using Linux machines in order to run my scripts using Ansible. So that's Linux is very useful. So if you can get Linux skills, definitely jump on a Linux wave and get some Linux basics behind you. But yeah, thanks for questions, guys. So let's just switch back to this. So we can see that it's still loading, and I don't know if you can hear my fans on the switch. They're spinning like crazy, which is normal. So we'll just wait until this is finished uploading. I'm going to keep the live stream going, but what I will do is I will pause, not pause, I will mute my audio while this is done. And again, if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me on Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll just read in your question, then tech tips when I was saying that Ansible is very fun and easy. Ansible is really fun. I mean, I've never been a programming guy. Obviously, the reason being is, I've been a networking guy. But the day and age that we're living in now, engineers are going to need to start knowing and having these sorts of skills. So it's quite important. Um, so yeah, my first steps was messing about a little bit with Python, and then on to Ansible. Now I use Ansible quite a lot at the minute to run my scripts. My scripts have some Python in it. I'm not the best with Python at the moment, but I am trying to get the hang of it. But running playbooks with Ansible is really cool, and I'm really enjoying that at the moment alongside my CCIE studies. So yeah, Ansible is definitely the way forward. So if you guys can kind of get some skills on that, definitely recommended. Do you do a little system administration at your current job? So no, I wouldn't say try. I mean, maybe define a little bit more what you mean with the system administration. Like, what sort of tasks are you talking about? And maybe I'll be able to better answer that. Yeah, definitely look up Ansible. Ansible is really cool. Really recommend it. And again, I've not come from a programming background. I mean, I did in college, many years ago. I did some web design. That's as close to coding as I got, I think. And are a bit, for me to be able to pick up programming, even Python, I were a little bit kind of not worried, but to me it was like, oh, I've got to pick up a new sort of skill. And Ansible was really easy for me to pick up and actually start learning, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot. Ansible uses YAML, so you really don't need to know Python. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it does, and Ansible is quite. YAML's quite human readable. That's right. You can use Python in your scripts. You don't need to. For what I'm doing at the minute, I'm using Python in my scripts because it helps with what I'm doing. But yeah, it's not a must. Windows DHCP environment, maybe .1x. Yeah, .1x. Definitely. When you're talking about these switches, I mean, the reason I've got this new switch, in fact the one that I'm using and a few others that I've got at the minute, is because I'm actually going to deliver some, and I'm going to live stream these as well, is I'm going to deliver some security focused switching labs and connecting to authenticating to ICE, Cisco ICE, so Identity Services Engine, which is it's all going to be based on .1x, AAA, all the radius TACAC, so all that. I don't know if you can hear my switch there. It's going to reload now, so I think it's more or less finished. But yeah, all that there is what I plan on doing. I'm also looking at covering some CCIE security stuff, so looking at MACsec as well as part of that, so look out for those guys. But yeah, in terms of actually doing it with work, yeah, I mean, as a security consulting engineer, when you're working with ICE, etc., and authentication, authorization, these are the important things that we need to know and the things that we do. Not particularly, I mean, DNS, yes, it's important, especially on firewalls. DHCP, yeah, it can be quite important as well. We do configure stuff like that sometimes. So yeah, all that sort of stuff we do. But yeah, thanks for the questions. Keep them coming, guys. I'm just going to quickly grab a drink while this switch reloads. I think it's done now. Keep the questions coming, and I'll be back in a tick. Alright, cool. So I think that's reloaded again now. The fans are spinning as much, so this upgrade should nearly be done. So this is an important thing actually to point out while we're on this live stream and we're doing this activity, is that when you schedule any iOS upgrade, you know, take into consideration that the device is going to be offline. Take into consideration that you need to back up any configurations on the device just in case anything goes wrong. You know, take into consideration that you're not going to be able to use the device until, you know, obviously the iOS upgrade's complete. This is looking like it's nearly done now, which is good. So I'll just see if there's any more questions. Yeah, cool. You guys, yeah, add each other on Twitter, whatever social media you've got. I think I'm following most of you guys already, and you're following me. I don't have Facebook, but I've got Twitter. I've got obviously my blog where you can subscribe to new posts. You know, I've got my YouTube channel. So yeah. It's a community effort, so you know, connect with each other, reach out to each other. Let's help each other get it, you know. Yeah, I believe this switch configuration is nearly the switch upgrade, sorry, is nearly finished. Let me just check on Twitter. Thank you for those that have retweeted it on Twitter. I appreciate that and liked it. You'll see the link on my page if you want to retweet that. You guys can follow along after or tune in now. So this looks like it's done. Yay! So we can probably see there now already. Just before I start, you guys can hear me, right? Just confirm that you guys can hear me before I go on. Alright, cool. So a lesson about DMVPN configuration would really appreciate. Alright, cool. So yeah, DMVPN for, you know, the more advanced people is a really good technology. I've played with DMVPN. This is something that I'm expected to know as well for my CCIE security. So it is something that I actively look at and something that you know, I am studying at the minute. So I'll do my best actually to put together a lab, because like I say, I'm still learning DMVPN actually. So it'd be really good to actually lab this up. I've not labbed it yet, so it'd be good to lab it up and run through it together. And you know, maybe you can share some tips with me. I mean, tech tips, what stage are you at in terms of certification wise? Are you beginning? I mean, I'm guessing you're not, you know, starting out, because you're talking about DMVPN. Let me know. Yeah, we can just get back to the iOS question. Jarrett, in terms of iOS 15 for labbing, no. You can use iOS 12, whatever. You don't need iOS 15 for labbing. I don't know who's told you that or where you've got that from. As I said earlier, the reason you normally upgrade images is to make use of new features or to address a vulnerability. I mean, yeah, so you don't need iOS 15 for labbing, it just depends on features. So if we turn back to this now, it's complete, and we do a show version, we can see we're not running 12.2 anymore, we're using 15.2, which is good. And if we go further down, We can see there as well that we're using software version 15.2. Again, it's a 3750X, 48 port switch, but it's saying 54 because I've added an extra network module. And we're using a universal K9 image. So if I do show license, so we can see that we have, so I've not accepted the new EULA agreement, which I'll do all that after, but you can see that my license type is evaluation. So maybe in fact this might period left 8 weeks 4 days, IP services, the period lifetime. So this might have actually affected my upgrade. I'm gonna have to check into that actually. That's interesting. But to be honest, I didn't know, because I've just got a switch for my lab. I'm not too sure what the license date was before I actually upgraded this, so I'm not too sure. I might just have to do a little bit further digging on that. But just while I'm here, in fact, if I do if I do license install, so yeah, it has to come from Flash, won't it? Let me just see if I can let's see if I can make a change to this real quick by accepting the user agreement. So if I do license accept, it should be nope. No. Alright, I'm gonna have to look into that license call. Yeah, so the license is actually something I'm gonna have to look into. Again, like I say, when I got this switch, I never checked the license, so I'm not sure what the state was. So I'll have to have a look at that. But yeah, so if we do the Flash, just to get back to the lab, we can see that our new image is here. And we've verified that the version as well that we're on is current, so we're good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much the lab that I wanted to show you today in terms of configuring, upgrading the iOS on a Cisco switch. So I hope you guys have found that useful, and yeah, apologies for the brief break we had in the lab. That's because we were upgrading the iOS, and it just takes some time there. So just before I finish off, let's just go back to questions and see if we've got any questions from you guys. Okay, so currently at CCNA routing switching, but because VPNs are very hot and every employer expects that skill, that's why I try learn. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, one thing I would say is make sure you get the fundamentals first in terms of, you know, site-to-site VPNs, remote access VPNs, etc. Before you jump onto more advanced topics like that, and like DMVPN. The reason I say that is because once you understand those fundamentals and how certain protocols work, it makes it a lot easier for you to move on to the more advanced things. So yeah, so make sure you just bear that in mind. What can you expect to do for the first job in IT? Just got a new job for NOC second line network support. Start next month. Excited and nervous. Alright, cool. So I'm guessing, Hamid, if you, first of all, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your question. So it's your first IT job. and you're starting at second line. So I mean, obviously you've been interviewed for this position. Obviously they've seen something in you and tested your technical skills within that interview to be able to start in your first IT job as second line in a network operations center. So that's good. So what can you expect? I mean, I've never done a NOC job. I've worked for a managed service security provider, but I've never worked in a NOC. So I mean, I can't really say what you'd be expected to do. What I would say is make sure you have read that job description inside out and you understand what's going to be expected of you, because the last thing that you want to do is turn up on your first day and you get given something that you're not ready for. So make sure your technical skills, which I suspect are ready for the position as they've give you it, and make sure that you understand the role that you're going into. Tech tips: I'm going to attempt my CCNP root exam soon. Yeah, cool. I've done CCNP routing and switching. The root exam for me were probably the hardest one. CCNP switch I did, which was in my eyes it were a good exam. I enjoyed that exam. CCNP root was a bit of a pain in the ass, and CCNP troubleshoot again was a good exam as well. How did you lab for the CCNA security, GNS3 or packet tracer? So I'm going to tell you something now about packet tracer, and obviously packet tracer is a Cisco software. It's an excellent tool for those that are starting out. When I were in university and I was learning networking for the first time, I was using physical equipment alongside packet tracer. I never really knew how to use GNS3. And for CCNA routing and switching level, it was enough. It was more than enough for what you needed to do. When you move on to things like CCNA security and more advanced certifications such as CCNP, routing and switching, CCIE, etc., you really need to move away from, well, you'll have no choice actually to move away from packet tracer, because the devices do not support features that are required for the exam. So I mean, let's take CCNA security for an example. I know that packet tracer has the ASA 5505, or at least it did when I was using packet tracer. Now this is all well and good to use a few commands throughout the command line, but in the CCNA security exam, the training content that I went through, so the official cert guide, it references things like ASDM, which you're going to need to know how to use, Cisco Configuration Professional, CCP. All these things you cannot get hands-on experience with using packet tracer. So this is where I made the move to, I think coming up to the last year in university, I made the move to GNS3. And nobody showed me how to use it. I just played about with it and finally got used to it. And to this day I still use GNS3 now, as you've probably seen in some of our videos. So for most advanced certifications, you need to start moving away from packet tracer. Thanks, Tech Tips. I'm glad you enjoyed the lesson today. I've certainly enjoyed it, especially doing it twice. I'm glad you pointed that out, by the way, because I would have been uploading a video with no audio. And yes, CCNP root exam is the hardest. Yes, I probably found that the hardest CCNP exam out of the 3 that I did. So yeah, that's probably right. So yeah, thanks Jarrett. I'm looking forward to doing the next one as well. Again, I look forward to doing these all the time, especially with you guys tuning in and asking me questions, and me being able to share my knowledge and give advice to you guys. So yeah, just keep looking out for the next one. I'm not sure which or what I'm going to be doing next, but yeah, it's going to be, no doubt it's going to be a good one anyway. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, if there's no more questions, guys, I think I'll end the stream here. But yeah, make sure you sub me on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my blog, synat.co.uk, where I post quite a lot of posts on there as well. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll just answer these last few questions from Jarrett. Yeah, I'm glad you feel like you could get an head start in security. I mean, that's, you know, obviously one of the things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you guys advice and knowledge that I never got. You know, I had to find out for myself. So I like helping people, I like teaching people. So I mean, if my information that I give you can help you along your journey and help you, you know, overstep and overcome some of the things that I had no guidance with, you know, that's what it's about. Which book do you recommend? Well, there's a bit of speculation about the current CCNA security certification guide not being up to scratch in terms of what's reflected on the exam, but I used the CCNA Security Official Cert Guide, and I also used some online material from Cisco at the time. I can't remember what it was called actually, but I do know it was about $1,000 just for this material. So I can certainly find out what that material was. In fact, give me a second, let me just take a quick look, see if I can find the name. Yeah, so the Cisco content I was using was called Cisco On Demand. Now, like I said, the CCNA security course was about $1,000, but this was probably the best online training that I've used thus far. The reason I say that is because you get access to not only the up-to-date material, you get to take quizzes at the end, just like those that have been part of the Network Academy. You get to take online quizzes at the end, tests, and you also get real labs as well. So you're working with Linux, Kali Linux machines, you're working with ASDM. You know, it's really good in the sense that you don't need to have any of your own equipment to do the CCNA security exam. You don't even have to have GNS3 because it's all or nothing there to give you what you need. So yeah, it is expensive. Like I say, it's about $1,000, but it would definitely worth it for me. So that's what I use and that's what I recommend. But for those that don't want to buy that, you know, use the CCNA Security Official Certification Guide, because that's what the exam's supposed to be based on, and also use Safari books. And if you have Safari books or any similar whereby you can read CCNP security material, that might also help towards your exam and make it easier as well. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys. I hope you found it useful. So I'm gonna go kick back now, relax, and yeah, probably play some Xbox One actually. Play some PlayerUnknown Battleground, get ready for tonight's Super Bowl. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed it. I've had a really good session with you guys, so cool. Until next time, speak to you guys soon.